and Commissioner Lanier. There's Commissioner Moody. How you doing tonight? All right. Just give it one more moment for Commissioner Lanier to sign on and join us, and then we'll get started. See, some of our guests are with us. All right. Joel, do you know, is Commissioner Lanier, has she reached out to you?
She has not. We
Okay.
took my text. No, I don't see anything there either.
Just want to make sure she's not having problems getting on.
Mr. Ipple, can you turn off your camera for us, please? Thanks.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm assuming she'll join us momentarily, but it is now 7:01. So we'll call this meeting to order, and we'll start our evening with a moment of silence before we move to Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Now, if you join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we'll do roll call.
Commissioner Jones?
I am here.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Present.
Commissioner Isasi?
Present.
Commissioner Ruppert?
Here.
Commissioner Moody?
Present.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes. Thank
And
you.
I'll see if I can get a hold of Commissioner Lanier.
Okay, thank you. And then commissioners, before I turn it over to Ms. Lilybeth to provide some information about translation services, just want to draw your attention. We have a number of public hearings tonight, so we'll have our first opportunity for public comments on action items, agenda items that we're actually voting on tonight. We do have a number of scheduled public hearings. So we have a public hearing to consider a brownfield plan amendment for 1601 Madison. Then we have 3 public hearings on establishing an industrial development district and facilities exemption certificate for 400 Monroe Avenue Northwest, which is the Perigo development. And what I'd like to do is to have those 3 public hearings held together. And I mentioned that this morning at COW. And then the last one is public hearing to consider zoning ordinance text amendments affecting the traditional business area and commercial zone districts. And then we'll have our last opportunity for public comment. So if you are interested in speaking on one of those items, I'm going to ask you to hold off for the scheduled public hearings to speak until those are opened up. To call in with public comment, you can call 311 or 456-3000, hit number 1. First opportunity for public comment, you'll hit number 1 after that. And then you'll hit number 2 for the 1601 Madison, 3 for the 400 Monroe Avenue, 4 for the text amendments, and then 5 for the last opportunity for public comment. So with that, I'll turn it over and introduce Lilybeth to provide that information and give information about translation services if that is needed.
Thank you, Mayor Bliss. Good evening, everyone. If you need interpretation services to address the City Commission, I will be able to assist. Please dial 456-3000 or 311 and choose the option you'd wish to speak on tonight. Buenas noches. Si necesita servicios de interpretación para dirigirse a la Comisión de la Ciudad, estaré disponible para ayudarle. Marque el 456-3000 o el 311 y elija la opción en la que desea comentar esta noche. Gracias.
Thank you. All right, commissioners, that will take us to our first opportunity for public comment. So this public comment period is only for comments on items that we are voting on tonight. So we had actually a number of standing committee meetings this morning with full agendas, and those agenda items are listed in our agenda. So the expectations for public comment is that you share your name, the city that you live in. You'll be given up to 3 minutes to speak. This first opportunity, we ask that you be very specific about what action item that we're voting on that you wish to speak to. And then we'll give you that opportunity. We also ask that you are respectful of the rules and that you refrain from using any derogatory or inflammatory language. So with that, I'll open up this first opportunity for public comment, and I'll ask Daniel if we have anyone in the queue.
Thank you, Mayor. This is Doug. Daniel's having trouble getting connected, so I'll go ahead and connect the first caller.
Thank you, Doug.
Oh, actually, there are no callers in this queue.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. Hopefully Daniel will be able to join us. So with that, I'm going to close that opportunity.
Sorry, Mayor, can we just give it like 10 more seconds I just want to make sure that we didn't have it with a delay.
Thanks, Joel. All right, Doug, anyone join us?
No, there's no one in the queue.
Okay, thank you. Then I'll go ahead and close that public comment period, and that will take us to our next item, and that is approval of our minutes. And this is from our last meeting in December. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
All right. Thank you. Moved and supported. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, I'll turn to our city clerk to call for the vote.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Isasi,
Yes.
Commissioner Repart,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Aye.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, it carries. Next, that will take us to petitions and communications.
Yep, the first one is communications. There are 384 received regarding homelessness in Grand Rapids.
That is received and filed.
Communication received from Landon Bartley, Proxima Collective, expressing support for the proposed zoning ordinance amendments affecting the traditional business area and commercial zone districts.
That is received and filed.
And communication received from Laura Masoki, emphasizing the importance of low-income housing for Grand Rapids residents.
And that is also received and filed. All right, next that will take us to reports of city officers.
The first one is the Comptroller's Funds monthly reporting as of November 30, 2020.
That is received and filed.
Comptroller's report for the period of December 2, 2020 through December 29, 2020 in the amount of $32,226,090. Sorry, let me start that again. $32,226,998.35.
That is received and filed.
And Treasurer's report for the period of November 28, 2020 through December 28, 2020.
And that is also received and filed. All right, next that will take us to our consent agenda. So our consent agenda are items that we voted on earlier today in one of our standing committee meetings where there was a unanimous vote from this body. And so tonight with one voice vote, we'll adopt those items. Can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll turn to the city clerk to call for the vote.
Commissioner O'Connor,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Isasi,
Yes.
Commissioner Repart,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, it carries. All right, commissioners, that will take us to our ordinances to be adopted, and we have one ordinance before us tonight.
It is an ordinance amending section 1 of the budget ordinance 2020-15 for fiscal year 2021, amendment number 11.
All right.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioner O'Connor from our fiscal committee, you want to tell us about this item?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just 4 items on here tonight. First one is just the alignment of some major and local street funding. It's really just an accounting function. Item 2 is some good news. It's an additional money that we were able to collect from the gas and weight tax. We had anticipated lower revenues because of COVID, but people are out there driving around. So we were able to capture some additional funding of $1.2 million for that. We're recognizing and appropriating some revenue for the ecliptic at Rosa Parks Circle for the work that's being done to update that. And then finally is an expenditure of $2.3 million for the relocation of the east side sewer trunk line, which runs down Market Avenue currently. That will help us facilitate the transaction that's going to take place along the riverfront.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll turn to our city clerk to call the question.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Eastasi,
Yes.
Commissioner Repart,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor,
Yes.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, it carries. And Commissioners, can I get a motion to give this immediate effect?
So moved.
All right, moved and supported. City clerk, can you call the question?
Commissioner Eastasi,
Yes.
Commissioner Repart,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, it carries. Thank you. All right, Commissioners, next that will take us to our scheduled public hearings. And as indicated, we'll have 3 tonight. The first one is a public hearing to consider a brownfield plan amendment to or for 1601 Madison LLC redevelopment project located at 1601 Madison Avenue Southeast. Notice of this public hearing was made pursuant to state law. So what we'll do to get us started is I will invite Mr. Gracia from our Economic Development Department. It looks like Mr. Klooster is joining us. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Klooster to give us some background on this. And I see we have a couple guests who've joined us. I believe Mr. Ipple and Mr. Edwards is with us. They can share some additional details if they like. I'll see if you have any questions, and then we'll open it up for public comment. Again, if you want to be heard on this item, you can call 456-3000 or 311, hit number 1 and then number 2. So Mr. Klooster?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I think Mr. Canfield is on the ball and pulling up the presentation here. I'm going to walk through a couple slides here to provide an overview of the site plan and the redevelopment. And I do, as the mayor pointed out, have a couple guests with me tonight, and I'll introduce them in a second. So next slide, please, Mr. Canfield. The site itself is a 10-acre site in size. I'm sure you're all familiar with the property. It is just south of Cottage Grove on Madison Avenue, just sort of south and across the street from the Center for Community Transformation. The property does have about a 100-year history of various manufacturing operations, and it currently contains a 250,000 square foot building that was constructed over multiple phases and multiple time periods, and it's been vacant for about 5 years and underutilized before that. Due to the history of the property, as you might imagine, it has significant environmental and infrastructure challenges associated with the redevelopment. Next slide, please. So the project that you're going to hear about tonight is a partnership proposed between Amplify GR and Rockford Construction. In order to really even get started on redeveloping this property, there's about $2.2 million of demolition, cleanup, and site infrastructure improvements that are necessary. That will include street and landscaping improvements, as well as enhancement to and relocation of an existing bus stop, which is being conducted in coordination with both the Rapid and Mobile GR. You see that on the upper right-hand side of your screen there. Once that $2.2 million of work has been completed and the site's been cleared and is ready for development, phase 1 of the project will occur on the northeast corner of the site, shown in green there. That's approximately 3 acres of the 10-acre overall site. And in that location, the developer plans to construct a 60,000 square foot industrial and office building. This type of facility, which is majority industrial, is consistent with the requirements of the industrial flex zone district, which you'll recall was a zone district created through the Southtown Business Area Specific Plan property. Next slide, please. So there is ongoing work to secure a tenant for the site, which would result in 95 new jobs for the city. 69 of those jobs would be transferred existing employees from outside of the city, and 26 of them would be new. As Amplify has done and continues to do, they do work with their partners, including potential tenants, to prioritize hiring from the neighborhoods in which they're working In this case, the target for this project is that 30% of the new jobs created would be filled by residents from the 49507 zip code. And these jobs would be created in positions where there is opportunity for skill and job development in high demand careers. The wages, you'll see the overall average wage shown there of $21.57 per hour. The wages do range from $18.50 to about $33.50 an hour. And that, with the number of jobs and those wages, that would result in approximately $42,000 of new city income tax on an annual basis. Overall investment in the cleanup of the site and the development, that first phase of development, is about $12.5 million, with $8.5 million of that being hard construction costs for the new facility. The developer has committed to the outcomes we've set forth in our inclusion plan for economic development incentives, and in this instance has set a what we believe is an aggressive goal of 30% of the construction contracted value being awarded to minority business enterprises, women-owned business enterprises, and in this case, 49507-based business construction firms. So there is a plan to accomplish that. In brief, it includes enhanced solicitation and outreach practices, ensuring that targeted firms are provided with and prepared for the opportunity to bid. It will involve contract debundling and segmentation, extending materials discounts, and other efforts to achieve that outcome, all with ongoing reporting to ensure compliance with that. Before handing it over to Mr. Ipple, I do want to provide a little context on the request here for the $2.2 million from the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. The Brownfield program is really meant to encourage and support urban development, and in particular to overcome the financial barriers to redeveloping properties like this one. So I talked about the $2.2 million of costs. So $1.2 million of that is for environmental activities, including investigation, vapor mitigation, removal of contaminated soil. And then there's an additional $1 million of what we would call in the brownfield world non-environmental activities. So that includes the demolition of that 250,000 square foot building and the lead and asbestos abatement that would need to occur before that, public infrastructure improvements and excavation of buried debris and foundations that are out there. The Brownfield program is a performance-based incentive, meaning that the investment is a required component of the project. And so that investment is what generates the new taxes that are used to reimburse for those costs. And just quickly, because of the phased approach and the overall size of this project, we do anticipate that the Brownfield Authority will make an investment through its local Brownfield revolving fund as well. So I know I've covered a lot there, but there is a lot to cover with this project. And I will turn it over now briefly to Mr. Ipple from Amplify, and I believe Mr. Edwards is on the call as well from Rockford Development.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Klooster. Mr. Ipple?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, and good evening, City Commissioners. We are extremely excited about this project because we think it hits a variety of different notes as it relates to the city's equitable economic development plan, as well as the Southtown Business Area specific plan. So, as several of you know, this is a catalytic project that really is a pretty significantly complex and piece of property in the southeast part of Grand Rapids. And as Jenno mentioned, it has a lot of different environmental conditions that have made really reactivating the space a very difficult proposition. But we're excited that this is going to bring nearly 100 jobs back into the neighborhood. And with that, we're hopeful that this is the first of many more employers that are really committed to the same thing, committed to local hiring, committed to intentional purchasing within the Southtown neighborhood. And so as we think about how these types of employers are going to help other local business opportunities, such as restaurants, we think that this is going to be a significant step into the reactivation of that Cottage Grove area. So lastly, I think we're extremely excited about the employer that will hopefully be moving in, that is also committed and has a track record to workforce development and taking people that don't necessarily have skills in the technology field, but really working with them to advance them a high growth, high tech profession. And so we're excited to bring that type of employer into the Cottage Grove neighborhood as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jeff Edwards.
Thank you, John. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I don't have too much more to add. I think Jono and John did a great job covering all the aspects of the project, but I just would like to reemphasize that removing this 250,000 square foot structure is such a huge, important first step in really beginning the process for restoration and removing the blight and some of the health and safety and environmental concerns that have lingered from, again, over 100 years of manufacturing legacy. So we're very excited to kick off that process this spring. And with that, if there's any additional questions related to background or the brownfield plan activities or costs, happy to answer any of those questions.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Commissioners, any questions for either of our guests or Mr. Klooster tonight? Commissioner Lanier and then Commissioner Moody.
Thank you so much for the presentation, gentlemen. John, if you could speak to the engagement that has surrounded this property. I know we've been talking about efforts for this property for some time now, so it would be great to kind of hear a little bit of that history prior to the public hearing so that the public is aware of all of the work that's gone into engaging at the business district level as well as the neighborhood. And thank you for your reference to the business area specific plan. I remember this property in particular as we were discussing future development, and which is part of why it was proposed to that industrial flex zoning category at that time, which didn't exist, but we were looking at, how do we plan for the future by creating jobs in an area, but not necessarily industrial position. So if you could just talk about the engagement, I think that's important to hear now.
Great, yeah. And I think, Commissioner, thank you for your leadership, because I think this is one of those great examples of projects that would have been a little bit more difficult with the older iteration of the industrial zone. And so I think this just shows how, as manufacturing and industry changes, a perfect example of the type of work that we hope to see in the future. As it relates to the engagement, we have engaged at a variety of different levels over the last couple of years. So the two most recent engagement opportunities were we met with the Madison Square Business District as well as the Madison Square Partners group. And so those are two different groups that we engaged with in the last 2 to 3 months to kind of further explain this project. And prior to that, we did some door-to-door work just south on Montgomery Avenue to explain to folks some of the remediation that was going on. And I think, quite frankly, just a lot of positive feedback of wanting to know when the jobs were coming. And so there was quite a bit of excitement of the folks that lived directly to the south of the 1601 Madison site. And so, and certainly over the last several years have done extensive broader neighborhood engagement that really helped lift some of these things in terms of local hiring requirements, livable wages, commitments to workforce development, et cetera. And so we're excited that, as we mentioned, that this organization is really committed to those values as well.
Thank you. I'll add my thanks to, thank you, Commissioner Lanier, and thanks for all of your work on this as well. Appreciate that. And Commissioner Moody?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one important thing that I wanted to point out, and that's I want to thank John for his endurance in sticking with this project. And I believe especially that it is going to enhance the third ward tremendously. The other thing too is that I know that you are looking at the possibility of creating 26 new jobs and that 60, I think you said 69 jobs will be carried over with this new development. Is there any extra room in the future for that 26 to be increased?
Yes, and I think in two ways. So one is as employees turn over, certainly that 30% goal will apply to any additional new hires. So even within that 65 existing, the goals would apply to them. And then absolutely, I think that the company continues to signify continued growth in the West Michigan area. And I think future opportunities to grow that beyond the initial 95 employees. And so we're hopeful that this will continue to track in that way that's going to allow for more jobs. I think the other thing, just to point out that we didn't specifically mention, Commissioner, earlier too, is that this will be the first project as relates to construction employment opportunities too, that I know you and I have talked about. So this will be the first one where we begin to pilot more direct connection and pathways for folks to get involved in the construction industry as well. And so look forward to more conversations on that element of workforce opportunities.
Now, when we had our conversations and talking, we talked about, I know you mentioned the word folks, but I want to point out, we talked about minority businesses, minority contractors. And that was one of the key things that I was talking with you about. I wanted to make sure that in that third ward that does happen. Like I said, I'm excited about what you're doing. You and I have had a lot of long talks. I appreciate those talks, but one of my key pet peeves was, if you're going to come into the community and get the community engaged, hire the people in the community and hire those who have the skills. And that is something that I hope you guys are discussing and talking about right now.
Thank you, Commissioner. Absolutely.
All right, thank you both. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll open up this opportunity for public comment. Again, you can call 456-3000 or 311, hit number 1 and then number 2. Is Daniel with us?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. There are currently no callers in the queue.
Okay, we'll give it, I'll look at my clock here and we'll give it a few seconds. All right, Daniel, anyone in the queue?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close that opportunity for public comment and we'll refer back in.
Mayor, I'm sorry. Can we give it just to like 10 more seconds? I'm watching YouTube to see when it catches up.
Okay.
Because the call-in prompt just came up.
Great job, Joel, at keeping us on task with what's happening on Facebook Live. Good job.
All right.
Got lots of things going. Okay.
All right, Daniel, is there anyone in the queue?
There's
Okay, we'll go ahead and close that public hearing and public comment, and we'll move on to our next item. So thank you all for joining us tonight. All right, commissioners, with your support and approval, I'll go ahead and read the next 3 at the same time, and we can add those 3 public hearings all together in one. So the next 3 public hearings are related to the same project. So it's a public hearing to consider establishment of an industrial development district pursuant to PA 198 of 1974 for Perigo Company located at 400 Monroe Avenue Northwest. And then a couple companion items, a public hearing to consider an application for a 12-year industrial facilities exemption certificate pursuant to PA 198 of 1974 for the same project, Perigo Company at 400 Monroe Avenue Northwest. And then a public hearing to consider an application for a 12-year new personal property exemption certificate under PA 328 of 1998 for Perigo Company at 400 Monroe Avenue Northwest. So I'll notice of these public hearings have been made pursuant to state law. Similarly, as last time, I'll turn this over to our Economic Development Director, Mr. Gracia, to start off. And then I know we have 2 guests tonight. So we have Mr. Janish, I believe, and Birgit Close. So Mr. Gracia, you want to get us started?
Yes, if Mr. Canfield could pull up the few slides, please. Thank you. So the public hearing tonight is related to the project for El Perigo Company to establish its North American headquarters at the MSU Grand Rapids Innovation Park, otherwise known as MSU GRIP. So next slide, please. I want to give you some context of all the other surrounding development that was important to getting the attention of the company here and the planned vision for this park and the continued investment and how it allowed us to be competitive in the process, but more importantly now realize the gains of our investment and vision and securing this North American headquarters. So again, this is here on the corner of Michigan Street and Monroe Avenue, and that MSU Grand Rapids Innovation Park has a vision to create this healthcare innovation hub that on the medical mile, right? And so this is the third building that will be constructed on this GRIP campus. The current building at the corner of Michigan and Monroe is known as the Grand Rapids Research Center. And then currently under construction is the Doug Meyer Medical Innovation Building, which is expected to be completed this year. And just those two alone are over $140 million worth of investment. So this is an additional building that is yet to be constructed. So on the map there, you'll see where it says future development to the left of the parking deck. And this represents the area where this 10-story, $37.5 million, well, the investment part of Parago's will be $37.5 million, and construction to commence in February 2021 and take a little over a year and a half, and then result in 150 new jobs to Grand Rapids. Next slide, please. So again, as I mentioned earlier, the medical mile continues to develop with a critical role in helping secure healthcare research and innovation. And so you'll hear from Mr. Yanish here more about how their company specifically fits into that. But before us is this 12-year performance-based tax exemption, both on real and personal property. Now, I must note, these are performance-based incentives. So it requires the company to make the investment. It is not guaranteed. It is based on the job commitments and investments that we'll talk about here. So again, constructing a 10-story, 127,000 square foot liner building, again, commencing in February 21, and expected completion of May of 22. And Parago will locate its North American headquarters in approximately half of that space that encompasses floors 8 through 10 and under a 15-year commitment. So there's a 12-year performance-based incentive, but the company has actually committed to a longer term of 15 years. So again, it's a $34.5 million construction cost and $3 million of personal property that will result in an estimated $1.1 million of new property tax to the city over the lease term. Now, that also will bring 150 new jobs to this location at Monroe. 100 of those existing employees will come from Western Michigan, essentially, and transfer to the downtown location, and then another commitment of 50 new positions related to this location. And that alone will also result in a city income tax of over $1.5 million. Now, those jobs that they were hiring, you can see those categories listed there. The wages will be, again, we go from $25 to $53 an hour, with that average wage being about $31.56 per hour, or approximately $65,500 annually. So again, the city's net over this term will be $2.6 million as it relates to the investments. So I'm going to allow Mr. Yanish to talk more about the investment and why they selected and the competitive process they went through. And also Birgit and the Right Place talk a little about her partnership and her team in helping us secure this North American headquarters. So Mr. Yanish, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay? And see me? Good. So first of all, thank you very much. Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to everybody about a project that has really generated a lot of excitement within Parago and hopefully within the city of Grand Rapids as well. Before I talk about the project in general, I thought I might give a little bit of background for Parago, the company. For those of you that don't know, Parago was actually founded here in Southwest Michigan back in 1887. So we've been around for a while here in Southwest Michigan. We're a fairly large manufacturer of private label, over-the-counter pharmaceuticals and branded self-care products, with our annual sales approaching roughly $5 billion a year at the moment. Globally, we employ about 11,000 people, but in Southwest Michigan alone, we have over 4,000 of those employees. So the Southwest Michigan area is by far one of our most key locations for us as an organization, which makes sense given this is where we were founded. In fact, our our manufacturing facility in Allegan specifically is still by far the company's largest manufacturing operation today, representing a little over half of all of the global products that we manufacture come out of the facility in Allegan, Michigan today. So very key to us. Now, while we've been a part of the West Michigan community for a long, long time, 133 years, our past has primarily been that of a healthcare-focused organization. But in recent years, we've embarked on a transformation to change ourselves into a broader consumer self-care company, which is expanding the segments that we can actually participate in. And as a result, it's opening up a lot of different opportunities for us. And frankly, it's this transformation that played a key role in us ultimately coming to the conclusion that we need to establish a North American corporate headquarters that we ultimately selected Grand Rapids to be the location for. Now I'll step into the project itself and go back to late 2019. This project actually got kicked off primarily because of a need for space. Perrigo's continued to grow, and as a result of that growth, we had outgrown all of the space that we had in the Southwest Michigan area, so we embarked on a search for more space. As we were looking at our needs for space and what we truly require to support our future growth, we realized that space in a more urban environment was going to be better suited to helping us realize our future growth as an organization. Not only was it going to be able to give us a platform for establishing the headquarters that we were looking for, but frankly, it was also going to be able to enhance our ability to attract a more diverse applicant pool, frankly, as well as to attract some of the skill sets that we know that we're going to need for our future success, things that were not in the past as critical to Perrigo, like e-commerce and digital and branded marketing, things that were not core to our past, but will be very important to our future. And our goal is that by locating in an urban environment, and in particular Grand Rapids, that we're going to be able to attract as many of those individuals from the local communities as possible. Now, for a variety of reasons, we actually looked at 3 different locations for establishing the center, in addition to Grand Rapids, which is logical because it's right in our own backyard. We also looked at Chicago and Southwest Florida. In the end, ultimately, it was Grand Rapids that gave us not only that desired urban setting that we were looking for, but a tremendously skilled applicant pool. But in addition to that, it also helped us to further solidify our commitment to Southwest Michigan so that we can bring all those new jobs that we're going to create with our growth right here into our own backyard. Now, I'd also say that in reality, it was the work that Grand Rapids did or has been doing over the last several years, establishing itself as a kind of a world-class life science and healthcare destination, coupled with the work that MSU specifically was doing in the self-care space and in establishing the Grand Rapids Innovation Park, that ultimately made it a very easy decision for us. So what Grand Rapids has to offer, frankly, is going to allow us to easily tap into a whole array of healthcare and innovation thought leaders that are right here in our own backyard. Much like if anybody saw the announcement yesterday where we announced a formal partnership with MSU where we are going to focus on accelerating progress in the area of self-care innovation that just was announced yesterday. So it took a tremendous amount of collaboration to get to where we are today, and I'd be remiss if I don't thank everybody that was involved. It was not just the city of Grand Rapids, but also the MEDC, the governor's office, Berget and the Right Place played a key role, Rockford Construction, CBRE, West Michigan Works. Everybody played a role in this and helping us get to the point that we are right now, but we're really, really excited about the opportunity to build a premier North American headquarters right here in our backyard in downtown Grand Rapids. You heard Mr. Gracia talk about the actual specifics of the project. I'm not going to go through a lot more detail, but again, it's a to-be-built building. We were talking earlier about 400 Monroe. I think it's 430 Monroe. I think we're going to change the actual street number, but in the end, it's going to be a 10-floor building. We're going to take the top 3 floors, but because of the layout of the building, that actually represents half of the total square footage. Construction is slated to start here this winter yet, and hopefully we'll be moving in by the middle of next year. And we're really excited about it. So With that, I think I'll turn it back to Mr. Gracia or to Birgit. I think Birgit wanted to say a few words, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Yeah, let's turn to Ms. Birgit Close.
Can you all hear me?
We can.
Okay, because I've been having technical difficulties. So if I go mute on you, it's my WebEx connection. But anyway, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jeremiah, and most especially the commission, of course, and as well as the company. I've always said economic development is a team sport, and this was a great, great team. Obviously, Perrigo giving us the opportunity to pitch our community and to make our case. The city, the MEDC, Rockwood Construction, The Right Place, and MSU, of course, and it turned out to be a great team to make our case. As Ron mentioned, we competed with two major regions of the country, Chicago and Southwest Florida, and we made it. And I think that's kudos to that entire team, but especially to Perrigo, like I said, who gave us the opportunity. And Ron touched on it. What has happened over the past 20 years with respect to Medical Mile really, really played a huge role in the decision that the company made. The ecosystem that has grown up on the mile and going north now on Monroe is now the 10th largest health sciences cluster in the country. And we are already celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Children's Hospital, which is really amazing. And the growth that has happened there in the last 20 years since the Van Andel Institute started really is amazing as well. So it's been a great project. I want to thank everybody again, and the City Commission and all of you for your leadership and your collaboration to get this project over the finish line. And I want to thank you personally also for all the collaboration and great work we've done together during my 33 years as CEO of The Right Place. And I wish everybody all the best going forward with all the success the city is yet to enjoy.
Thank you, Birgit. I'm going to add my thanks and all of our thanks to you for your incredible work in our community over the last 33 years. We have so appreciated your partnership and really you being a champion for our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, any questions before I open it up for public comment? All right, we'll go ahead and open up this opportunity to speak on these public hearings. Daniel, do we have anyone in the queue?
Here comes the first caller, Mayor.
Thank you.
Caller, you're on with the City Commission. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and the city in which you live. Your time starts now.
I'm Kellen Martin. I live in Grand Rapids. Good afternoon or good evening. In this public hearing, I'd like to express my opposition towards Perrigo obtaining a 12-year industrial facilities tax exemption, as well as a 12-year new personal property exemption through creation of an industrial development district. As the Grand Rapids commissioners and others surely know, Perrigo is legally headquartered in Ireland, specifically for tax evasion purposes. They have played the game of tax evasion for so long, and they have the resources to be able to search out all these avenues of tax reduction. Perrigo as a company did the same thing that they are doing here in Grand Rapids for their Holland expansion. Specifically, they were able to obtain a 12-year long industrial facilities tax exemption. What's more, in Grand Rapids, they are applying for the 12-year personal property tax exemption. All in all, this will allow Perrigo to skirt $4.1 million in taxes, while the workers of the company are still expected to pay their taxes in full. I understand that Michigan, as a state, is the ability for companies to apply for these specific exemptions. I am in no way saying that this should not happen. It is entirely legal. I am asking for the commission to not consider 12 years of exemptions for this company that doesn't pay U.S. taxes or is not headquartered in the U.S. And instead reduce the length of time that these tax exemptions occur. This is entirely within your right as commissioners to grant, and it would allow the city of Grand Rapids and Michigan to be able to collect vital tax revenue that would instead go to the workers of Grand Rapids. And as Ron stated, the location of 400 Monroe is incredibly desired, especially by a company like Perrigo. That means that you're able to bargain with Perrigo with the people's interest in mind. By allowing a 12-year industrial facilities tax and new personal property exemption to pass, you are not bargaining in the interest of the people. Finally, I would like to say that even if there is precedent towards giving a company a 12-year tax break, we are entering into a time in which the government must respond to the needs of the people more than ever. And 12 years is too long to be an immediate response. Thank you. I'll end my time.
Thank you, caller.
Even if there
Caller, can you please lower the volume on your device?
A 12-year tax break. Say it again?
Can you please lower the volume on the device that you're watching on?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and the city in which you live. Your time starts now. Go ahead, caller.
Hi, my name is Jazz Fire-Salo. I'm a resident of the First Ward. I'm calling regarding the tax exemptions for Perrigo. I just wanted to speak to my representatives about, who probably know really well, the struggles that many local municipalities have had across Michigan in the last few decades due to the way in which our municipalities are funded, and how so many communities have lost democratic control over their municipalities due to quote unquote financial crisis. And when we do consider these things, and I want to say that I'm not necessarily saying that I don't want Perrigo to be a part of our growing medical district. I'm not saying that, and like the previous caller said, like they're well within their rights to be able to take advantage of these things that the state offers as an incentive. But I want to, as we inevitably run into the precipice of the consequences of the lost tax revenue in the middle of a pandemic that has crushed our economy, I want my representatives to consider the consequences of a 12-year property tax exemption on the future of our public parks, on the future of all the things that us as residents appreciate, and the people that help run our city facilities. And to the representative of Perrigo, I appreciated your presentation, and I appreciate that you did select our city out of the three major cities involved. I would ask you also to consider, while this may help your bottom line or help you help your company save some money in this process, I would also consider that if you can pay this, that everything that the city could possibly make in terms of tax revenue now is will be greatly appreciated by its residents. Thank you, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, caller. Caller, you're on with the City Commission. Please state your name and the city in which you live. You have 3 minutes. Your time starts now.
Hi, my name is Smith, and I'm a resident of Ward. I wanted to emphasize the last two callers. I want in agreement with them that we shouldn't support such a beautiful and key piece of real estate in our community being given to a corporation that is exercising such brazen disrespect for how we support each other through our government, which is through taxes. And then secondly, I just wanted to call attention to, I know that this is a building that is along with Perrigo and is in construction now, or has been built. It's been a while since I've been downtown. The Doug Meyer Medical Innovation Building. that we have so many buildings in Grand Rapids that have the names of incredibly wealthy billionaire, millionaire white men on them. And in particular, especially with the events of last week, we now know that some of these incredibly wealthy people who extracted their wealth from our community by evading taxes spent some of that wealth supporting white supremacist violence that has been occurring for many years, but continues to occur and erupted this last week in our capital. And I would just request a corporation that's trying to appeal to as many people as possible, like Perrigo, to think about positioning themselves with people that supported a regime in the Trump regime that led to a pandemic that has killed, it's going to be close to 500,000 Americans when we're done. And as a corporation that's trying to promote health, I think being so present near so many of these buildings that have these fervent Trump supporters with their names on them is noteworthy. And I know I myself might think twice about supporting a corporation who made that sort of choice. And that's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Caller, you're on with the City Commission. Can you please lower the volume on your device?
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
can. Can you all hear me?
We can, yes. You have 3 minutes. Please
hello?
state your name and the city in which you live. Your time starts now.
Sure. Hi, my name is Jeremy Tong. I'm a nurse and I live in Grand Rapids. I work in Grand Rapids. I'm calling to kind of reiterate the same kind of statements that our last callers had spoken to. I don't want to completely reiterate everything that everyone was saying, but in terms of the current situation, in terms of the 12-year tax exemption for Perrigo, I just hope that our city commissioners will be able to kind of bargain a little bit more for the people of Grand Rapids. And being that, I mean, since we have such a, so much growth in medical mal, I don't see a reason why Perrigo would withdraw, creating this new headquarters here if there was, less time or less exemptions given. I just think with the COVID-19 pandemic that's happening right now, we need all the taxes that we would be able to get from any company. Also, I just want to thank the city commissioners for their time and for holding this meeting, for inviting us to make public comment, and thank Perrigo for making that presentation that was very informative as well. But just, please keep fighting for us, for the taxpayers, and, supporting our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, caller. Mayor, there are no more callers in the queue.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. We'll go ahead and close that opportunity for public comment, and that will be referred back to Committee of the Whole. All right, next that will take us to our last scheduled public hearing tonight. This is a public hearing to consider zoning ordinance text amendments affecting the traditional business area, or known as TBA, and commercial zone districts. So to get us started tonight, I'll turn to our planning director, Ms. Turkelson, and again, give her an opportunity to provide some background on this. I'll see if any of you have any questions, and then we'll open it up for public comment. Ms. Turkelson?
Good evening, Mayor. Thank you, Commission. I believe Mr. Canfield. There he is again. Thank you. On December 15th, the committee introduced a proposed text amendment to the city's zoning ordinance. The presentation was lengthy, thorough. It included a summary of the amendment, an explanation on the reasons why the planning department is recommending this change, and the potential impacts of the change itself. In sum, the proposed amendment will provide greater flexibility in the ground floor use requirements within the TBA and commercial zone districts. Next slide, please, Lou. The graphic on the left-hand side of the slide helps visually explain the changes. Within the TBA and the commercial zone districts, ground floor residential would be permitted with the administrative approval. Within the TBA zone district, ground floor offices would be permitted, a permitted use, when the building does not front on a primary street or the use is at least 20 feet back from the primary street. And we would continue the requirement of special land use when the use is at least within 20 feet of the primary street. Next slide. The proposed amendment would also eliminate the bonus height structure that is applicable to the TBA zone district without increasing the overall allowed height. So if approved, building heights of up to 4 stories would be permitted without a bonus height structure. Next slide. So this amendment is being put forward for consideration for several reasons, but at the core of it, it's the need to align development interests with the community's needs, market conditions, and code requirements. We know that the impact of the current health crisis has intensified an already challenging commercial market. We have now quantified the critical need for housing units generally and affordable housing units specifically. The Planning Department and Planning Commission recommend these amendments as we believe that they will provide the needed changes to support our community. So thank you, Commissioners, for your consideration on this matter. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Turkelson. Let's see, maybe we can take the PowerPoint down so I can see everybody. Commissioners, any questions or comments for Ms. Turkelson? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and open this up for public comment. So again, you can call 456-3000 or 311, hit number 1 and then number 4. All right, Daniel, do we have anyone who wishes to be heard?
Not at this time, Mayor.
Okay, so we'll give it, I'll turn to our city clerk so that he can tell me when we've caught up with online.
We are caught up now.
Okay, thank you. Daniel, is there anyone in the queue?
No, ma'am.
All right, we'll go ahead and close this public comment period. Commissioners, I know that we've received quite a bit of written feedback on this item. And so make sure that you're able to see those comments as well. Again, you can, if you didn't call in tonight on one of these public comment periods, public hearings, you're welcome to email the full city commission.
Yeah, there'll be, Mayor, just so you know, there's 5 public comments from the public that'll be on next meeting's agenda. So showing support, so.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, Commissioners, that will take us to our last opportunity for public comment. This is public comment on any other item. And I'll turn to Daniel to see if we have anyone in the queue.
Here comes the first caller.
Thank you, Daniel.
Caller, you're on with the City Commission. Please state your name and the city in which you live. You have 3 minutes. Your time starts now.
Hi, yes. My name is Michael Hayataka. I live in Grand Rapids. This is my first time participating in a public hearing in Grand Rapids. I regret it took so long, but I was driven here by the inhumane treatment I see happening to marginalized people in my city, perpetuated most commonly by pressure from the police, who have contributed to make Michigan one of the worst cities to be Black in America. I'm calling in regards to the eviction of many unhoused from Hartside in December. It seems crazy to me that happened because in 2017, the Hartside Quality of Life Study was conducted by residents of the Hartside neighborhood along with city officials and local organizations. Within this study, they listed a vision statement that said, "Our neighborhood will be a safe, cooperative place where our diverse interests and lifestyles can coexist with mutual respect." What happened? Your actions last month despicably contradict your own mission statement. Another goal in the study was to become a place where there is dignity for those who have a disability, are experiencing homelessness, facing unemployment, or struggling with mental illness. Again, what happened? Last month, you despicably contradicted your own mission statement. We are defined by how we treat the least fortunate of us, not by how the most fortunate of us live. Justice for Black Lives has created a petition to turn Hartside into an urban campground. I urge you to move towards this direction in an attempt to actually serve the people of this city. And just a reminder, the Kent County Health Department never gave the city an order to remove the unhoused from Hartside. So basically, the police just went in there and evicted people by lying about the timeline and without any ordinance from anybody. I wish you guys would do better. That's my time. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Caller, you're on with the City Commission. Please state your name and the city in which you live. You have 3 minutes. Your time starts now.
Hello, my name is Jessie, and I am a lifelong resident of the city of Grand Rapids, Michigan.
I'm calling in regards to the same thing as the last caller, the eviction of many unhoused from Hartside in December. The city of Grand Rapids claims to have a homeless outreach team called the HOT Team, but they were not present on Monday, December 21st, when the city police evicted the unhoused from the Hartside Park. And they were all on vacation, to which I will say, first of all, there's a global pandemic, which affects people of color disproportionately. And by traveling for the holiday, the HOT Team knowingly endangered Americans of color and selfishly left their charges without any support from the city. It's their job to be involved with operations like this. And the city needs to reevaluate its relationship to the unhoused and our unhoused people of our city. Again, there is a petition for a urban campground by the same group as the last caller said, Justice for Black Lives. And I would urge my commissioners to move in the direction and attempt to facilitate the safety of our houseless citizens. They're people who need our help, not our abuse, and they don't deserve to be swept aside. And that's my time.
Thank you, caller.
Our houseless citizens.
Caller, can you please lower the volume on your device? Thank you. Please state your name, the city in which you live. You have 3 minutes. Your time starts now.
Hello, my name is Allie, and I'm the president of Justice for Black Lives and a citizen of Grand Rapids. I'm calling in regards to the unjust eviction of the unhoused community in Hartside Park. First off, I'd like to say how deeply disgusted I am with the city of Grand Rapids. Not only did you forcibly remove the unhoused community from a park that was literally made for them, you also lied about why you were doing it. This entire time, you used the fact that you had an order of removal from the health department to justify what was being done, when the entire time you never had one to begin with. Sarah Simmons is the environmental health director at the Kent County Health Department, and she said all she was asked to do was an inspection and that she never wrote an order of removal, nor would she have suggested one in the first place. You know why? Because we're literally in a pandemic, and the last thing y'all should be worried about is the unhoused community's encampments. What y'all need to be worried about is the fact that the community has done nothing, has been doing more for the unhoused than the quote-unquote HOT Team has done this entire time without the budget. How can the homeless outreach team be on vacation the day you forcibly remove the unhoused from the park? That makes absolutely no sense. And the excuse of, oh, it's a public health issue with no bathrooms and people using the bathrooms outside, it's complete BS when you are all the ones that refuse to open up the bathrooms for them to use, despite saying it was a priority back in 2017 with the Hartside Quality of Life study. I cannot fathom how the city can gentrify one end of town for more people to move in while also pushing our unhoused community on the other end. So once again, shame on you all for sitting by and watching this happen. You cannot just sweep them under the rug that they are nothing. They are human beings. I yield my time.
Thank you, caller. Caller, you're on with the city. Hello, caller.
Hello.
Hi, yes. Can you please state your name and the city in which you live? You have 3 minutes. Your time starts now.
Good evening, city leaders. My name is Kristen Green, and I live in Howard City, but do volunteer work in Grand Rapids. And I wanted to start by saying welcome back, and I hope you had a restful holiday, warm, secure, and safe in your homes this year. I also hope you try not to feel too guilty about the trauma you inflicted on the most vulnerable members of our community during that vacation. But the holiday is over now, and you have some explaining to do. Why is it that you and I would expect to receive 30 days eviction notice, but you think it's suitable to give the unhoused 3 days notice, giving people with less resources than you and I a tenth of the time to find adequate housing? How cowardly and convenient of you to drop this on them and run. This 72-hour notice was delivered on Friday, December the 19th at about 3:40 p.m., right? Just before your offices close, if you can be reached, leaving little time to dispute it, let alone allow for people to make adequate arrangements. You are lucky that there are people out there like me and my friends that care enough to desperately search for alternatives and who gave their time and money out of their own pockets to arrange for food, U-Hauls, propane, and other necessities that the city is too cheap or too cold to assist with. Many of those who donated are unemployed themselves. You created this PR project called the Hot Team in order to look like you are with it. But where are they on forced removal day? You have employed a social worker to assist this team, so what was her plan for these people? Your Hot Team was on vacay during the forced removal. Instead, the Grand Rapids goons took care of this, intimidating citizens, following them and their helpers, and trashing people's belongings. If you don't believe it, perhaps they should turn on their body cams so you can have some accountability. Despite the lies you told me. Not only are you heartless, but you're incompetent too. And although I have a bucket full of examples where you dropped the ball and failed to respond appropriately in this matter, I wanted to point out what happened today. As I'm sitting eating lunch with my children, I received a cell phone call from a stranger who said he got my phone number from tonight's city agenda meeting. When I looked, I saw everyone who emailed or called you about Heartside. The Heartside issue had their names, phone numbers, and even their home addresses in the agenda, all for the public to see. I'm not sure what time you're living in, but I don't appreciate such a breach.
Thank you, caller.
It almost feels intentional. Your behavior on this matter as a whole.
Caller, you're on with the City Commission. Please state your name and the city in which you live. You have 3 minutes. Your time starts now.
Mr. Hondorp, can I ask a clarification question? This is Maggie Smith, and I spoke earlier. Am I still allowed to speak now because the other was a different public hearing?
You spoke at a public hearing?
Yeah.
Yes, you may speak on this topic. I'll reset your time. You have 3 minutes, Maggie. Go ahead now.
Thank you. Thank you. This is Maggie Smith from the 3rd Ward, and I'm calling because I believe in, but also was requested to call by the Justice for Black Lives group, doing incredible work in our community. And in addition, another group that I work with, Defund the GRPD group. And I want to underscore the last callers that you've heard, the egregious lack of justice, housing justice in particular, but justice wholesale that people in our community who are unhoused are experiencing at Heartside Park and elsewhere. We have a city that has incredible resources, and we can move mountains when we want to bring Perrigo headquarters here, or develop jobs that may look good on paper. But jobs are not people, and jobs can help people. But because we have an employer-based system, and that's how we provide people with some of their basic human rights, like healthcare, and in some cases the affordability to buy housing, we sometimes focus on those jobs. And I'm one of those people that is disappointed, as the last callers were, and I want to amplify their voices in my leadership now. I listened to part of and read reports on the other part of the committee of the whole meeting. This morning, I saw very little reports of urgency about the crisis in the unhoused people in our community. I know that from my experience working with people in this last week or two, delivering supplies through a friend who is close to people that are in the unhoused areas of our community, that the reports from Connie Bohatch were considered not accurate as to what has happened at Heartside. And I'm disappointed. I'm remembering, I think it was in late October, that we were told about the possibility for creative solutions, potentially even radical solutions to address some of these crises in our community. And I'm not seeing any of that. And I hope that in your final comments, you focus not just on how you as our leadership are going to take action today, tomorrow, and as we move forward to help these people, that are unhoused, and then also the ongoing issue of defunding the Grand Rapids Police Department and dealing with the white supremacy that is very present within the police department and throughout our community. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, caller. Caller, you're on with the City Commission. Please state your name and the city in which you live. You have 3 minutes. Your time starts now.
My name is Michelle Truskowski, and I'm from Northeast Grand Rapids. And I wanted to read a statement. In 2006, the FBI began an investigation into white supremacist infiltration of the police and military. Now Donald Trump has fanned the flames of insurrection against this country. On January 6th, the whole world witnessed a moment in which thousands of mostly white people stormed the Capitol, broke windows, destroyed government property, and left 5 dead. An investigation into the U.S. Capitol Police suspected involvement with a domestic terrorist who illegally stormed the Capitol last week has drawn attention to the infiltration of white supremacists in the ranks of both law enforcement and the American military. We see a stark difference in the police response to this event and that of the Black Lives Matter peaceful protest. The purpose of Black Lives Matter protests is to stop the brutality and killing of Black men and women at the hands of law enforcement. They were labeled terrorists and confronted with armed and militarized police officers, tear gas, shot with rubber bullets, endured beatings and mass arrests. There is no better evidence than this that shows that police departments all over the country are racist and should be investigated for their ties with white supremacist organizations. Defunding police means that the city needs to do the work necessary to root out white supremacists within the department and finally address the poverty in Grand Rapids. The city manager, mayor, and commissioners must begin to respond to the constituents of the city who overwhelmingly want this police force funded. Regardless of all the excuses why this couldn't happen, we learned today that through creative accounting, their budget remains intact. Mark Washington made sure that didn't happen. You would think that having a Black city manager and a police chief, that every effort would be made to protect all of our citizens. I yield my time.
Thank you, caller. Caller, you're on with the City Commission. Please state your name and the city in which you live. You have 3 minutes. Your time starts now.
Hi, this is Jeremy Tong again, nurse in Grand Rapids. I just wanted to second the opinions of a lot of the previous callers regarding the injustice that went down in just a couple of days before Christmas in Hartside Park. I also want to thank a lot of the community members who I know are on this call right now, who have put in so much time, effort, money, resources into taking care of houseless people who were living in the park. It's just so sad to me that the city created the HOT team with the Fire and Police Department to serve this community. And it's so clear that it's members of the community who have no funding, who may be unemployed themselves, are the ones who are taking care. You know, it's us who has to take care of each other. I'd just like to see kind of if we're going to have something like the HOT team, them really work in the best interests of these people. I mean, when I was down there myself, I was talking to individuals and they were saying, I just want somewhere to go. You know, it could even be a parking garage. I just want somewhere where I know I can be, where I can be safe. And that's a human right that we all deserve, you know? So I'm definitely in support of this petition to make Hartside into an urban campground. It's not the perfect solution, but it's a much better solution now than telling someone there's nowhere to go or to put them into a shelter where they may be barred from, or they may, you know, they're high risk for contracting COVID. It's, I'm just kind of speaking off the top of my head right now about how I feel. Thank you again for all the community members who have put in so much time and resources into this effort. I yield my time.
Thank you, caller. Caller, you're on with the City Commission. Please state your name and the city in which you live. You have 3 minutes. Your time starts now.
Hey, my name is Jim Spalding, and I live in Holland, although I lived in Baxter neighborhood for 10 years, and I'll probably end up moving back to Grand Rapids in the next few months here. Mayor Bliss, you and I met at the Bridge Magazine birthday party a couple years ago when I was running the Prop 2 petition to end gerrymandering in Michigan. That was successful. It was really awesome. We did a great deal of organizing. I'm calling because something I've started since then has been greater participating in some of these more local conversations, specifically about issues like housing. And if you talk to some of the city council members in Ann Arbor, I'm sure they'll have things to say about me, although pretty friendly with Chris Taylor over there. But anyway, I just wanted to say that when it comes to figuring out how to help our homeless, our houseless neighbors, like a city council, a city commission, a city government effectively has lost if they decide to do a sweep. And I mean, there's a lot of, language getting thrown around here. I think a lot of it's pretty clear. It should be seen as unacceptable, definitely with the Hearthside study in mind, but also looking at other places like Kalamazoo and other cities that have found humane approaches that don't involve those sweeps, and at a minimum aren't just absolutely terrible press that inspire activists to call in to meetings like these. Although when it comes to what I do, I guess on some weird level, I appreciate you providing a reason why folks should have a more of a call to action to participate in local government. I really just wanted to make the point that if there's a way that the city can find to not do these homeless sweeps, especially in the middle of a pandemic, it'll probably be good for everybody when it comes to elections moving forward. So thanks a lot to the commission for giving me a chance to speak. I yield my time.
Thank you, caller. Mayor, there are no more callers in the queue.
All right, thank you, Daniel. We'll go ahead and close that opportunity for public comment, and I will turn to my colleagues. I'll start tonight with Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. I just simply want to wish all of my colleagues a very happy new year. There's no doubt that we have much on our plate in this upcoming year, but I'm sure all of you join me in being grateful and thankful that we were able to put 2020 in the past. And so here's to what could be a rather difficult year. Here's to our ability to fight through and do whatever we can to provide a more abundant life for those who call Grand Rapids home. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner O'Connor?
Thank you, Mayor. I share Commissioner Jones's optimism about 2021, hopefully being a much more positive opportunity for all of us, as well as all the people here in Grand Rapids. I'm really hopeful with the vaccine here and folks starting to get that in our community, that's going to help us turn a corner and hopefully find some brighter days ahead as we continue to navigate all this uncertainty. So look forward to working with all of you. Hopefully someday we'll all be back in a building together, having these conversations on a dais with a real public in front of us. And until then, we'll keep doing it this way.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. Appreciate that. Commissioner Repart?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to express my appreciation for everybody called in tonight for their care, concern, and solidarity for those who are really suffering in this time. The suffering continues greatly for so many in our community, and we appreciate you reaching out to us. I do just want to highlight the approval of about 300 new affordable housing units that are hopefully going to be built in the next 18 to 24 months here in town. And 78 of those are for people of 30% AMI and below. So That was kind of buried in our fiscal committee today, but what a great step forward if those projects do come forward to begin to perpetuate some long-term solutions to some of these problems that are persisting in our neighborhoods. So thanks again for calling in. Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Well said. And I'm glad you elevated those projects that were before us today. Commissioner Isasi?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say, yes, it was, I share the sentiments as well and look forward to the time that we can be together. I do thank everyone for calling in. I know we got a number of emails during the holiday. You know, I think that, you know, I'm the newest on the commission, and it is disheartening to hear the calls, because I know that everyone around this dais, even if we don't always agree, we might not always vote in the same way. I know that everybody around this virtual table has the utmost care and compassion for people who are experiencing homelessness in the city. I know our staff does. You know, I thank those on the executive team who I had a lot of calls back and forth with our city manager that week of the Christmas holiday. And you know, a lot of people just calling to share the sentiments. And I think we have some opportunities, maybe around communication, maybe around looking for ways to make sure that those who are experiencing homelessness can be part of that forefront of ensuring that affordable housing or be part of that change. So I'm very hopeful for that. I think that we are all inside, we're frustrated. You know, unfortunately, somebody that is very close to me is experiencing homelessness right now, working through that. It is not, it's not what we want this community to be about. And so I thank people for calling, sharing their sentiments. I thank the city manager again for, you know, making sure that there was nobody who was arrested. There was not this criminalization of poverty that we talk about around this table quite a bit. And I think we all know, we've said it actually in that last meeting in December, that the solution to people experiencing homelessness is more housing, and we will continue to work around that. And thank you, Commissioner Repart, for bringing that forward. You know, we'll end this first meeting of this next year, and I hope everyone has a good evening. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Moody?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's good to see all of you this new year of 2021. I hope that all of you had an opportunity to rest and get ready for what's ahead of us. I appreciate all the callers that have called in. I definitely can sympathize with them. I had a brother who was homeless for 21 years, living under a bridge in Grand Rapids, and who slept outside on many nights. And many nights in the winter, I had to go find him and bring him to my home so that he would have shelter. So I understand their feelings, but I also understand that we as commissioners have an obligation for their safety, and I think that's important. I want to thank Mr. Fritz and Mrs. Claron for that citizens guide that we talked about in Kyle today. That was a wonderful presentation, and it was very simple, easy to read, and I think that the community will get a lot out of it. It really gives full details as to what our city is about and what we do and how we handle our finances. So I really appreciate that. Not that I don't appreciate the big comprehensive book with all the financial reports, but that was very simple and to the point. And I know that we have a lot going on this year. I appreciate the fact that we do have some developments that's taking place with housing, and appreciate that development would amplify Grand Rapids, and hopefully they will bring more jobs to our third ward. And I hope that this pandemic will leave us so that we can get on with changing our negative dynamics and bringing more positive things that we may move forward to improve ourselves as a city, the community itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Moody. Commissioner Lanier?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks to everyone for their comments during the public hearing, as well as during public comment. And I think, Commissioner Isasi, I think your comments were really good, thoughtful comments regarding how do we communicate a very complex problem in a way that helps everybody to understand what's the challenges that I think we are all facing with how to address this challenging problem. And I think I see communication as the challenge, because somehow, at least with the information that we have, it doesn't seem to translate well in how it's being disseminated to the public. And I think, but to Commissioner Isasi's point, I don't think anyone is intentionally saying and doing things in order to cause harm, but the exact opposite, but to try and prevent. And I think, City Manager, you said it earlier today, what happened in Lansing from happening in Grand Rapids. And I think the challenge that we have with those who are faced with homelessness is that we don't have enough housing, and that we are in a situation where new people are becoming unhoused, unfortunately, in our city and in our region. And I know since the first year on the commission, this has been one of the challenges that we've had. Many committees, many groups, and we've spent a lot of money trying to address housing in our city and partnering with organizations who are trying to bring housing and elevating the need for affordable housing. And so I think there's so many layers to this problem, and it is complex. And I'm just hopeful that we can figure out a way to help people to understand that what we did do, which was to provide shelter, was the best that we knew to do with the limited time that we had in front of us. And that that isn't the end, and that prior to COVID, the city manager had been already having conversations about the creation of a hot team and recognizing that there was a need to address homelessness in our city. And so what COVID did was, what I believe is, forced us to address and create the hot team sooner than what we had planned, but in still trying to address the concerns. And I think, but there are also lessons to learn. And because it's new, and because these are experiences that we have not had in the past, and because the hot team is a new creation, which I think is helpful for us to address homelessness going forward, there were things that I would say as we were implementing some of the program that we have before us, that we probably would do differently. I know that through the report that came from the county, there was a lot of information about the porta potties and the trash and things of that nature. And the city manager has recently talked about the increase in the budget to try and address some of those things. So I think we just need to call it what it is. It's us trying to do the best we can with quite frankly, something that's more complex than just telling people to leave a park. But there are so many layers, and you can't force people into shelter, and that there will be people making a decision to want to remain outdoors, and that you can't force people. And it's just so complex. And I don't know that there's an expert that does this. And I think that's part of why the hot team was created, because you need people from different sectors trying to address this very complex issue. So I'm appreciative of the work that has been done. I sympathize with the stories that we're hearing about the personal experiences that people have faced. I'm grateful that thus far in Grand Rapids winters, which is quite mild, that we have not had any tragedies. And I'm hopeful that this is just the beginning of a process that potentially could have better outcomes and better results for those who are unhoused in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Lanier. And I appreciate you also highlighting the fact that we are working on, it's a very multi-pronged, comprehensive approach, and we're all concerned about individuals, particularly because of the pandemic, and individuals who lost their jobs, that they're experiencing really significant unstable housing. And that's related to our work around eviction prevention and rental assistance. And so we know that this is a serious issue, and we all made it one of our top priorities when we had our recent planning retreat. So it's an issue that we know is urgent, and we will continue to work on, and our city staff are working diligently on this. So thank you for saying that. All right, I'll turn to our appointed officials. I'll start with Joel.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioner. Happy New Year. Happy non-election year. But the elections are, as we know, are not completely over. What's that? Sorry. But the 2020 election is still going on because we are in the middle of audits still put on by the state. So we had a procedural audit that was done a few weeks before the holidays. Actually, Grand Rapids was not selected in the statewide poll, but the county clerk and I decided to audit a precinct from City of Grand Rapids just so we can, allay the things that we hear. And as we're seeing through procedural audits throughout the state, the vote tallies on the paper ballots match what was tabulated and what was reported. That's the first thing. The next line of audits that are going on right now is a risk limiting audit. So the state is doing a risk limiting audit. So what they're doing is they're doing a random sample pull of 18,000 ballots around the state. So over the next few days, my staff and I will be pulling 341 random ballots out of the, we have to count down a certain number in each ballot bag and find out who the vote for president was on that ballot. And that's the hope, to show that that sample will show that our paper ballots match what's tabulated and what's been reported. So that's just continuing to let the public know and voters know that their votes were properly counted 2 months ago. So we continue to monitor, the election process. So just because we did our work 2 months ago, we're still auditing and making sure that the vote was proper. That's it.
Thank you, City Clerk. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to concur with everything that the commissioners have said and our seriousness of, we take serious this issue of our unhoused community. And so we're committed as a law department to do everything that we can in working with staff to work towards, more improved outcomes in this issue. As Commissioner Lanier said, it's very complex. It didn't get here overnight, and it won't resolve overnight, but we're extremely committed in all the action that we took. We didn't take it lightly. We took it with great compassion. We followed the law. We did everything that we could within the guidelines and the protocols, and went above and beyond those guidelines. And I would like and wish and encourage our community, Ms. Bohash at the Committee of the Whole did an excellent, I think, presentation that represents a lot of the work that we did towards this. Thank you.
Thank you, City Attorney. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, and Happy New Year again, everyone. I want to echo a lot of the sentiments that were said today. This is certainly a City Attorney said, very complex issue, but one that we did not attempt to do the work alone, that we did consult, work with some of our community partners who worked in the mental health space and behavioral health space, as well as providing services to the unhoused community. And I want to thank everyone for their effort, as well as community members that we had the chance to talk to. And we are not going around in every city park or across the city doing sweeps. This was an unusual circumstance. And I don't want to continue to comment on it, but the circumstances were very dangerous to the members that were that were living in the park, as well as from both the physical as well as the environmental in terms of weather. And I am happy that we were fortunate that we didn't experience what happened in Lansing. But towards solutions, I do again want to thank the commission for the work today on approving those 6 projects that will create the 300 units of housing potentially that Commissioner Repard mentioned. But it will also result, if the pilots are implemented, of additional $50,000 a year that will flow in to a housing fund. So that's additional resources. And as Commissioner Lanier said, we also have significantly increased our sanitation effort around cleanliness due to COVID, because we know that there were more people in outside areas and activated areas. And the porta potty, the spend a day, if you go back in fiscal, look at spend a day on the porta potties, it's gone from 20,000 a year to almost 200,000. So I appreciate the work that's been done, especially with the public hearing on the zoning and using ground floor retail potentially as a housing solution. We have a lot of work to do, but I do believe that we are approaching it from all angles and do what we can. I also want to just take a moment with the upcoming MLK holiday to wish everyone a happy MLK Day. It is a little challenging now with everything that's going on in the same month of MLK holiday that we've had the events from this past week, which were supposed to be, in the spirit of MLK, we always look for these peaceful, nonviolent acts of protest, but the acts that we witnessed there at the Capitol was just the opposite of those sentiments from Dr. King and our American democracy. And I do want to say that I, along with many others around the dais, condemn these acts of intentional spread of disinformation that would cause people to overreact. And it is our responsibility as government, particularly leaders in government, to combat the spread of disinformation when it intentionally gaslights people to cause harm. And what we should be looking at as an example of what happens in Washington, as the example for all states and cities and counties and villages to follow. And what happened this past week was certainly not that example. So while here locally, while we support peaceful constitutional rights, and we will always do that, whether or not people have great passion and may disagree with what we're doing, we will support your right to say it and right to disagree with it. But one of the things I want to make sure that we all do as a community, that we do not inflammatorily share information that's exaggerated to cause people to act in a way that would harm others. We want to make sure everything we do is peaceful. So thank you so much, Mayor, and I look forward to doing great things in this 2021 year. And I want to thank the staff for their continued work. We had a lot of staff members that worked tirelessly over the holiday, even preparing for this meeting, but continuing to respond to the needs of the public. And I so much appreciate the work that they do day in, day out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, City Manager. And even though it'll look different this year, there will be a number of events in our community, throughout our community, to honor Martin Luther King Jr. So hopefully you will take some time to pause and reflect on his life and legacy and what we can do to move that forward. And then 2 other things I'll add, and I won't repeat what everyone has said tonight. I appreciate the comments, both from those of you around this virtual table as well as from the community. But I do want to highlight and encourage anyone still watching to take a look at 2 things that we talked about today at Committee of the Whole. And one of them is the Consolidated Housing and Community Development Plan. So we'll be moving forward with that as a community. There are a number of priorities in that plan that are aligned with our hopes in what we would like to see accomplished around housing and access to housing in our community. So please take a look at that. You'll have an opportunity to weigh in and give your feedback. And then also I want to thank our City Comptroller, Max France. This morning, he, in addition to the audit that was presented, he presented the Citizens Guide to the City Finances. It's a very thoughtful document that takes what can be a very complex budget and makes it easy to understand. So if you have questions about our budget, then I encourage you to take a look at that. So I want to thank not just Mr. France, but I know we had a large team here at the city work on that. And hopefully all of you will get a chance to see that and review it and ask questions if you have them. So with that, commissioners, Happy New Year. It's good to be back together. I echo what many of you have said, that I can't wait till we're back together in person on the 9th floor in our chambers, where we'll be able to do all those things that I think sometimes we took for granted when we were together all day. And so I look forward to that. So with that, I'll adjourn, and you all have a good night.